For all its beauty and splendor, the mountains can be a cruel teacher. Reaching the summit of a mountain is a significant accomplishment. It represents a personal triumph over physical and mental challenges. The sense of achievement and fulfillment that comes with standing atop a mountain you've worked hard to climb is unparalleled. You're rewarded with breathtaking panoramic views that extend for miles in every direction. The expansive vistas, encompassing rugged peaks, rolling valleys, and distant horizons, provide a sense of awe and a unique perspective on the world below. But if you show little respect for the mountains, the experience can turn into tragedy. Please click the subscribe and like buttons. This is Outdoor Disasters. Standing at 14,179 feet or 4,321 meters, Mount Shasta is a stunning mountain. A massive snow-covered volcano rising alone above the northern end of California, near the California-Oregon border. It's as impressive as some of the grandest peaks on Earth. But unlike Everest or Kilimanjaro, which require long journeys to reach, Mount Shasta is just visible from a major highway, and thousands of people each day gaze upon its magnificent peak with its undeniable allure. Mount Shasta is part of the Cascade Range and is the second highest peak in the Cascades and the fifth highest in California. Mount Shasta is a potentially active stratovolcano, with the last eruption occurring 200 years ago. The mountain is renowned for its stunning beauty and has a reputation as one of the most picturesque mountains in the United States. Rising dramatically from the surrounding landscape, Mount Shasta stands tall with its snow-capped peak reaching towards the sky. Its graceful and symmetrical form commands attention, creating a striking silhouette that is visible for miles. Mount Shasta's gleaming white crown, adorned with snow throughout the year, adds to its allure. The pristine snowfields, glaciers, and ice formations glistening in the sunlight create a breathtaking spectacle. Mount Shasta attracts outdoor enthusiasts from around the world who look to challenge themselves by ascending its prominent peak. The beauty of Mount Shasta is truly a sensory experience, captivating the eyes with its majestic presence and immersing visitors in a natural wonderland that leaves a lasting impression. For Jillian Webster, her Mount Shasta ascent would be catastrophic. Webster, 32, a mountain guide from California, was raised in a passionately outdoorsy family in Thousand Oaks. She spent her 20s living hand-to-mouth and working seasonal jobs, ski instructor, mountain guide, to finance her adventures. She had traveled to India and trekked in the Himalayas, traversed the Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico to Canada, and skied daunting peaks in the Alaska backcountry. She was an extreme athlete and would find any excuse to spend the day partaking in outdoor activities she loves. She was working as a guide for Shasta Mountain Guides and was considered to be one of the best guides at the company. She was about to quit guiding and moved in with her boyfriend, renovated their house, and took a job as a preschool teacher, and seemed ready to try a more traditional life and was planning on finishing the climbing season before settling down. But in 2022, a couple from Seattle who had a taste for adventure but little alpine experience hired Shasta Mountain Guides to aid in their ascent and was assigned Jillian Webster to climb California's most dramatic peak. Shasta isn't the tallest peak in California, but it's by far the most stunning. The tallest mountain in California is Mount Whitney, about 500 miles south. At 14,505 feet or 4,441 meters, Whitney is the nation's tallest mountain outside Alaska and one of the most sought-after summits in the country. Impressive as it is on paper, Mount Whitney isn't as dramatic. Surrounded by other similar high peaks in a long, jagged wall of granite at the southern end of the Sierra Nevada range, it's hard to even pick it out. With little foothills and not a similar peak anywhere around, Mount Shasta shoots up from the ground to make for a spectacular view. With being just 15 minutes from a major interstate, Interstate 5, the allure of the mountain is like no other, and scores of people dream of summiting its magnificent peak. On June 5, 2022, Jillian Webster and her clients made it to the Bunny Flat trailhead, checked their gear, and covered all the safety precautions. Now they're off, climbing one of California's most sought-after summits. Webster and the adventurous couple were making good progress on the ascent, but were caught in a snow and rainstorm, which forced the climbers to turn around and camp out to ride out the storm. Hours later, the trio crawled from their tents partway up the mountain at 2:30 a.m. on June 6th and set out for the summit. The weather was nearly perfect, so clear one of the clients looks up to the sky and was awed by the sight of the Milky Way. After hiking a few hours steadily uphill, they stopped to put crampons on their boots near Helen Lake. That's where Webster pulled out the nylon climbing rope and helped her clients attach it to harnesses around their waists. With crampons on their boots and ice axes in hand, they spent hours kicking and clawing their way up the snowy route known as Avalanche Gulch. They did not know that up ahead, an extremely hard, slick layer of ice was waiting for them at the worst possible place, on the steepest section of the climb at about the 12,000 foot or 3,500 meter elevation left over from the storm the day before. When they reached that stretch, one of Webster's co-workers from Shasta Mountain Guides, who was a little farther up the slope, shouted down that it was too dangerous and he was turning his clients around. The other guide looked away. Upon turning back around, he was horrified at what he was witnessing. Jillian Webster and her clients sliding down the mountain. It's unclear who slipped first, but it happened suddenly. They all were yanked off their feet in an instant and hurtled down the slope with terrifying speed. One of the climbers slams his face onto the ice. He tried to self-arrest, a technique he'd practiced days earlier in which a climber digs their ice axe into the snow to act as a brake. But that didn't work. It was just an ice field. I had one final glimmer of hope when the axe penetrated the surface, but by then we were moving so fast it ripped out of my hands, he said. The three fell nearly 2,000 vertical feet or 600 meters down the mountainside. That's farther than anybody I can remember my 20 years conducting rescues on the mountain. Nick Meyer of the U.S. Forest Services and lead climbing ranger on Mt Shasta. He blamed the ice. When conditions are like that, the slightest slip can be lethal. As Myers saw the condition of the mountain, he was amazed at how icy the slope was. Even a total pro would have a tough time stopping or self-arresting with conditions like that. The guide who saw the fall radioed the news to a co-worker lower on the mountain, and then began a slow, laborious climb down the icy slope to search for the victims. It took him about an hour. He encountered a trail of lost gear along the way, an ice axe, a trekking pole, a crampon, and a single black glove. The co-worker he'd radioed found the victims first, several hundred feet below Helen Lake, with horrendous injuries. Falls are common on Avalanche Gulch, but almost everybody stops on one of several flat spots higher up the mountain or, at worst, when they get to Helen Lake. So when the call first came in and their location was mentioned, we were all scratching our heads like, how did they get all the way down there and why are they so badly hurt, Nick Myers said. Only later did rescuers realize how slick the slope had become. A California Highway Patrol helicopter picked up Myers and a fellow climbing ranger in town and whisked them to within a few hundred feet of where Webster and her clients came to rest. It was a nightmarish scene. The snow was streaked with blood, and both clients' bodies and faces were covered with road rash as if they had been in a motorcycle accident on pavement. Each had a broken leg. One of the client's ankle was so horribly shattered his foot was pointing the wrong way. Webster, who outwardly looked the best, was in the worst shape. Her helmet was broken, and there was a small abrasion over her left eye. But those were the only visible clues to the horrific head injury she'd suffered. She had been conscious but mumbling and combative when her co-worker found her. Her condition rapidly deteriorated. Then her heart stopped. When she stopped breathing, Webster's colleagues and one of their clients, an operating room nurse and wilderness medicine instructor, took turns performing CPR on her for nearly an hour, to no avail. Jillian Webster would die that day on Mt Shasta. Within hours, that perfect morning turned into one of the most hectic and gut-wrenching days on Mt Shasta in recent memory. Aside from Webster and her two clients, two other climbers plummeted down Avalanche Gulch. All fell more than 1,000 feet and all suffered serious injuries. Webster, 32, was pronounced dead shortly after noon. Webster's clients survived the fall but were in bad shape. Rescuers packed both of them into screamer suits and attached them to a long cable dangling beneath a helicopter. They were flown a safe distance from the mountainside before being slowly winched up into the helicopter for the rest of the flight to the hospital. Both of the clients suffered broken ankles and required surgery full of plates and bolts, but made full recoveries. While the couple probably won't strap on a pair of crampons or pick up an ice axe again, They don't regret the decision to attempt Mount Shasta. "We had the right gear, and we had some of the best Mount Shasta guides in the business," he said. Jillian Webster would never get the chance to opt for the traditional life she was looking forward to. Her death shocked the Shasta climbing community, and her co-workers mourned her loss deeply. In a Shasta Mountain Guide's Facebook post, it states Jillian was in her 4th year with us and was a highly experienced, well-respected, and well-loved mountain professional. Amongst the many accomplishments in her life, Jillian was a mountain guide, backpacking guide, and ski patroller, had thru-hiked the PCT, recently rafted the Grand Canyon, and was pursuing a career in education. She was one of our best guides, and more importantly, a wonderful person in every way. Our deepest condolences are with her family and loved ones. Our hearts are broken, and she will be very deeply missed by our entire staff. Summiting a mountain can serve as a powerful source of inspiration and empowerment. The accomplishment can fuel a sense of motivation to tackle other challenges in life, both on and off the mountain. It can remind you of your potential, resilience, and ability to overcome obstacles. Big mountains are like these living, breathing entities that change their mood at the drop of a hat. One minute conditions are perfect and you can taste the summit. The next minute, the mountain can turn vicious and spiteful. It's important you prepare for whatever the mountain will throw at you. If you find yourself tumbling down a mountain, you must try to maintain a clear and focused mind. Panic can impair your decision-making abilities and hinder your chances of survival. Cover your head and face with your arms to protect them from impact. Attempt to shield your vital organs and vulnerable areas of your body. Assess your surroundings and try to steer your fall towards a safer landing spot, such as a snowfield, soft ground, or vegetation. Avoid landing on rocky terrain, sharp objects, or areas with potential hazards. As you approach the landing, try to position your body in a way that reduces the risk of severe injuries. Aim to land on your side or roll onto your back if possible to spread the impact across a larger surface area. After the fall, evaluate yourself for injuries. Attend to any immediate life-threatening injuries first, such as severe bleeding or difficulty breathing. If possible, call for help or alert others in your group or nearby individuals. Practice proper mountain safety, including wearing the appropriate gear, staying on marked trails, and being mindful of the terrain and weather conditions. Additionally, acquiring knowledge of mountaineering techniques and taking part in training courses can significantly enhance your preparedness and reduce the likelihood of falls or accidents. Crucial tips so you can navigate an outdoor disaster.